Go. Mr. Chair, you are live.
Right. Quorum being present, this meeting of the Annapolis Historic Preservation Commission shall come to order. The commission operates pursuant to the land use article of the annotated code of the state of Maryland. Local authority for the commission is derived from municipal code of the city of Annapolis, chapter 21, section 56. The purpose of the HPC is to preserve sites, structures of historic, cultural, archaeological, or architectural significance. Requirements for serving on the commission are detailed in chapter 21, section 8.06. The HPC operates pursuant to the Maryland Open Meetings Act, and therefore no pending application shall be discussed between or among commissioners outside the public hearing. Okay, that's the first on the agenda. Second on the agenda is our roll call. I am Tim Leahy. I serve as chair. We have with us Leslie Xavier.
Here.
Will Scott.
Here.
Bobby Collins.
Here.
Kevin Smith.
Here.
We also have John Tower serves as staff.
Here.
And Jackie Routh from the Department of Planning and Zoning also is joining us. And Kimberly Consoli is our recorder. I think that's it. Let me jump over, make sure I look at my agenda so I get it correct. Next on the agenda is announcements. John, would you like to announce anything for us?
Well, 2023 was a busy year for HPC and HPC staff. We had 284 applications. We had over 30 revisions. Many of these were associated with building permits, tax credits, etc. So well done all the way around. There's a lot of work that got accomplished. The total value of the approved projects, which I'm always thinking might be just slightly understated, was nearly $4 million.
Mm-hmm. That's great. And this data comes from the annual report that you prepare each year. Right?
Yeah, well, we're speedily working away. The other thing is we have now switched to Energov.
Oh, that's right. How did it go?
Yeah.
Today, right? Effective today.
There was I only saw one person threatening the keyboard and the screen. It's going to be a challenge for people, but they might actually enjoy it because it means they don't have to make the trip to the permit counter. So for once everyone gets up and running, it could actually save time.
That's great. I just want to it looks like Bill Williams has joined us. Hello, Bill. So let the record reflect that Bill has joined us. That's great, John. How do you think it will affect the commissioners?
Probably not in any qualitative way, because most people are looking at the plans and the communications on screens now, as opposed to on paper. Sure. So that's since this group is somewhat technologically advanced. They get their information digitally, this is going to fit right in with that.
So Sherry will continue putting everything on the drive the way we do today.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Really, okay.
Nice.
Yeah. She's well, of course, we don't have full knowledge or all the bugs worked out, but it seems like a step forward. What I will miss, of course, is people coming in to talk about their projects, and I will not have the opportunity to instruct them about, well, if you did this instead, you'd have a better outcome, and you might get a 25% tax credit. That's all going to be done through emails now, which isn't quite the same.
They can still, of course, request to meet with you if it's a complicated
yes.
project, where you can identify a complicated process. They can, yeah. But before, I guess they actually would come in and drop the documents off with you.
But there
Right.
actually aren't going to be any application forms anymore.
Well, and that-
They're
They're-
they're getting rid of
online
all of the
applic-
application forms, John.
sorry.
I said they're getting rid of all the application forms.
Well, there are.
You mean they're automating them?
Right,
What-
that's correct.
Right. So it's not like you download a paper application, fill it out and scan it and then submit that.
An
It's all,
application, yeah.
it's just a little bit different. So will Sherry then be downloading everything related to a project from Energov and then uploading it to your Dropbox? Is that?
Yeah,
what you
well, that's
visualize?
what I imagine the process is. It's just like taking
Okay.
a Word document and making a PDF and then moving it on.
Okay,
Download and upload, sounds like.
Right.
right.
And
Well, we don't yet have, do you have a link yet to even access the system, John? An
Um,
internal link?
I don't, and I have all kinds of questions
Yeah.
about it. In other words, how things I'm going to be notified of new projects.
right,
For instance, well, I have to
Yeah.
go looking for them, which I'm hoping that IT can help with things in other words, that I would have a group of projects on, let's say, an inbox list chronologically. It's sort of the way I do it in paper now.
Mhm.
So, and what I also like is a column for problem applications. I have plenty of those.
yeah, that's referred to as workflow in an app, when this type of automated system, that's referred to as workflow, and it has a bunch of triggers, hopefully, that are built in. I'd be curious. and
There
maybe-
is a YouTube video that they've made and I watched it. It's on the city website, but all it does is say, we have this new system and it covers all these permits. It doesn't really tell you how to use the
Screenshot.
new system.
Well, it's worth our while probably over the next week, maybe to.
But
Really
it just is
dominating.
an intro informational thing. It's only 2 minutes and 41 seconds long.
Okay. Yeah, I'd be curious to how if they uploaded our existing forms with their instructions, making it clear and easy for an applicant to follow. Our
I don't
instructions.
think they're
pretty-
doing that. Honestly, I don't think that's part of the system, but
That's a concern of mine, because.
No,
Yeah.
there are instructions for HPC. Those
so you've
instructions
seen what you can access?
say.
Okay. All right, well,
I'm
yeah, I'll go with
I'm not going to
you.
say I'm an expert in any way, but I will
Okay.
have updates as I learn more.
Okay.
Good. Keep me
All
updated too.
Okay. All right. Other announcements, John?
Should we jump
We
into
can jump to
violations?
Well, minutes are next. Approval of
Okay.
those minutes is next on the agenda. I did note, Kim, I noted two minor things on page 3. The top, there's a reference to, it says NHT, it's actually MHT, Maryland Historical Trust. That's one. And we note that we adjourned at 7:02. I think it might be 8:02.
All right, thank you. I'm correcting it as we speak.
Okay, great.
One other thing.
I know we are very efficient, 2 minutes for the. Any other comments or clarifications?
Yes, one other thing.
Uh-huh.
I note, and it's my fault for not mentioning it sooner. I keep forgetting, but my first name is spelled Bobbi. There is no E on the end. It's been spelled with an E consistently, so.
And Will, would you like your name to be spelled with one L? I noticed it is to spell it too. So
One,
it's one L,
please.
Kim.
One's enough.
One's enough, yeah. Somebody knocked the
But
hell out
2
of
eyes.
you. All right. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes for December 13th?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
I,
Opposed? Abstain? All right. Minutes are approved. All right, next on the agenda is violations, open and new. John?
So what I am tending to find is that most of my violations are not about actual historic material being removed or disrupted, which is good. They tend to be more in the realm of restaurant furniture and lights on buildings and things like that. So I have both of those, which I discussed with you, Tim, at Federal House, and there was a play for time today to set up a meeting with the mayor to talk about the unapproved furniture at Federal House in the market space, and also to not remove the lights that are on the exterior of the building. They've had multiple complaints, but to leave them in place and simply not use them. My approach is that if these things aren't removed, I'm simply going to issue notices of violation. And the time for talk is past, and I'm not sure that the furniture that is in question here. Well, first of all, it doesn't meet our guidelines, and secondly, I'm not sure that it's fire safe next to the open pit fires that are down there on the tables. They're all restaurants are at least 25% of my time. And each one is, and I understand that each one is edging for greater notice. And they'll do it in different ways. For instance, some restaurants put out the shabbiest outdoor furniture, which doesn't meet our guidelines. And I think that's their way of saying, come on, folks. And others will do anything to get attention. And I think that is the case at Federal House. But I've had numerous complaints, including from the mayor's office, about the lights and their effect on the neighborhood, shining in people's windows and so on. And they have to come down. They can't be turned on for every celebration, because they happen to be there, and I'm not there to regulate them.
Right.
Holiday lights are fine, but Valentine's Day, for the week of Valentine's, no.
Right. And
Mother's Day, etc. It'll just go on and on.
Right. Well, I mean, I'm glad to hear that there are complaints other than from the Historic Preservation Commission, because they're clearly out of line from a guidelines point of view, and they're large types of lights, so they have a visual impact even in the daytime. You can see the wires, you can see the bulbs. So
so that's one. And then there was
incidentally, Al Aqua at the top of Main Street has similar lights, so I don't know whether you've talked to them.
Oh, they're next.
They were up for the holidays.
Right.
I get it, but the same would pertain to that.
Well, we just had Orthodox Christmas, so
Yes.
anyway, let's see what other things. Just another commission, but the Heritage Commission is working on the observance and celebration of Lafayette's return to Annapolis in 1824, and that's I think that's going to be a really wonderful celebration. He walked the walk, he talked the talk, and he went to prison for it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really looking forward to that, and hopefully we'll do him justice. If anyone has the opportunity to read the accounts of what his visit in Annapolis were like, how he remembered so many veterans, he was just an amazing person.
Yep.
Okay, that's fine from me.
Okay, great. All right. Next on our agenda is the consent docket. We do have one item that's eligible for the consent docket tonight. The consent docket is a procedure designed to expedite applications before the commission. In order to be considered the consent docket, the application must receive recommendation for approval or approval with minor conditions from all city staff and technical advisors. Also, there needs to be no public opposition. If an application is approved on the consent docket, we do not need to have any further discussion this evening. But you, please remember that all the necessary permits are still required. And please remove any posted signage. Tonight, the application at 4 King Charles Place is eligible for the consent docket. It does have a few conditions on it. So Madeline, if you could promote the participants who are representing King Charles Place.
Yep, they should be on in a second.
Did the sound good?
Donald and
Yep,
Jim,
we're
if
all-
you can hear me, you have to accept the prompt that I just sent to your screen, and that if you come on as a panelist, you can then turn your audio and video on.
There they are.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Mr.
Mr. Lighthizer, welcome.
Uh, My function today is more like a piece of furniture. I'm going to refer to my partner, Lynn Kraus, and
Okay, that's fine.
he should be getting on.
Okay. What we're going to be doing is just asking you if you acknowledge the, we don't need to have a presentation. We just need to acknowledge the conditions that are on the application. They're minor conditions.
You know, listen, it's fine by me. I'd like to hear from Lynn Kraus. I don't know where the hell he is. I just talked to him. He said he was watching you, observing.
Video right there.
Got it.
There he
Okay.
is. There's Lynn. I heard his lovely voice. And we'll see his pretty face, but
Video, ready?
Yeah.
All right. Let's start my video. Click on that. Ready? Okay.
he's trying.
That's okay.
Be patient with him.
There we go. There we go.
Fine.
The guy
Ta-da!
with no hair on the right.
That's right. And I put the bright light on, so I wanted to make sure I got a lot of glare off the.
A lot of glare, like, oh.
Yep, sir.
Okay, so the application's on the consent docket, but Bobby, can you make a motion and I'll ask for clarifications on
Yes.
the conditions?
I recommend that we approve the application for 4 King Charles Place, which is consistent with the guidelines listed in the staff report with the following conditions. Per the variance approval, the rear yard setback must be maintained at no less than 15 feet. Architect and staff will determine a shingle pattern which visually differentiates the additional siding from the existing shingle siding on the original portion of the house. And finally, the staff will review art glass windows compliance with guidelines as the design becomes available.
Okay.
Second.
Well, okay, second, I just want to clarify that the applicant, agrees with those conditions.
Yes, we do.
Okay, super. All right, now we have a second. All right, all in favor? Aye,
Aye.
opposed? Abstain?
Terrific. That was the most incredibly complicated and very, very fruitful hearing. I really appreciate all
There
the
you
work
go.
you all put into that. Thank you very much.
That's the way
No
we like it.
speeches, Lynn. Just
That's
Yeah.
exactly right.
take
It's
the approval
important.
and run. Thank
Yeah.
you all.
It's important to come
Yeah.
to these in case there's any public input.
Right.
That's the only.
And I can guarantee you that this is probably the quickest hearing that Jim Lighthizer ever sat through too. So
All right. Well, we're happy to do it. So thank you very much.
thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Happy
Of
New
course,
Year.
kudos
Happy
to
New
to Reddy for putting together a great package and an excellent.
Yes.
Well,
And thank you, John. He did a great job. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
All right.
So can we leave?
You sure can.
Good
Or you
night.
can
Thank you very
stay.
much, and
Feel free to
and you all have a
stay.
great night, and have a happy new year to you all.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you.
All right. Any other business? We have one more administrative item tonight. Who wants to run for chair?
Tim, can I speak?
Of course.
Tim, I certainly hope that you will continue. I enjoy working with you so much. And you are so good at this and analyzing the issues that are complex and difficult. And there's no limit to the pressure that comes with the position. And I think you handle it incredibly well in an organized manner and in ways that honestly the HPC has not previously seen. You've brought your own style to the position. And
Second.
I think everyone benefits from that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. So if
Is John now allowed to nominate somebody?
Yeah.
Or is he
That
your
wasn't a
campaign
nomination, it was
manager?
that was just a,
endorsement.
I do need a, yeah, thank you, John. I appreciate that.
But you know, we also get a lot of feedback from the public about what an effective and sane job you do as chair. I mean, a lot of positive feedback, Tim, that, you know, that you're very thoughtful and calm, and hasn't been a lot of melodrama, everything. And we've had a lot of complicated applications.
Yeah.
And it's a real asset for the city.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that. I really do. Thank you. I am willing to continue. So I guess I need to, and then we'll also need a nomination. So after that, we'll have a vice chair as well. So if someone would nominate me, I will accept.
So nominated.
Okay.
Second.
And I would like to nominate Bobby to continue as vice chair.
I second that.
I do appreciate Bobby's input all the time. She and I talk offline, and I'm able to bounce ideas off of her, and she keeps me, part of the reason I am able to be so thoughtful is because I've had discussions with her in advance.
Bobby, could I say you are incredibly effective, and it has been a pleasure working with you. And I remember prior to your election that we met, and I think we went to Dry 85 when that sort of thing was still allowed for me because I didn't work for the city. It's been
John, has there
wonderful.
been a change in the city management? Are you now having someone else sign your checks?
I'm signing. I've
I'm
figured
just
out the
pulling your
program
leg.
to
I agree with
access
everything you said.
the finances, and I'm writing my own checks. I'll write you one too. But no, I am literally not allowed to have a drink as a city employee.
Wow.
You know, when I'm doing conducting any city business. So how am I gonna do that at the happy hour, the HA happy hour?
Yeah.
Oh, I guess I'll be putting away my badge.
There you go.
Well, don't
Well,
they serve now non-alcoholic
we
beverages also?
This is one of the things I think I'm good at. Let's stay on the agenda. We start talking about policy. Okay, so I nominate Bobby to be vice chair.
Second.
And all in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Do we vote for Tim already? Yes?
I think I did.
Okay, good.
I think we did.
I don't
If
think
we
we
didn't,
did.
let's do it again. We didn't?
I don't think we did.
All in favor
Worth doing twice,
of
yeah.
me?
Of Tim? Aye.
Aye. Abstain? Okay. So Bill's still on mute. He may still be in India for all we know. But I assume we have a quorum, but I think we're good. All right.
You
Bobby,
can
I
make me
apologize.
best treasurer while he's gone.
Yeah, there you go. So Bobby, I do apologize. I just talked to you an hour ago and I forgot to bring up the fact that I was going to nominate.
And I didn't even see it on the agenda, so.
There we go. That means we're functioning. I was going to ask her for a change to the rules to, one of you could move to vacate me. Only one of you. it would
Yeah,
be.
like in the Congress. Yeah,
Yeah.
doesn't that make a lot of sense?
Yes, it is.
That'll really improve the functioning of the House.
Yeah, there we go. All right, any other business? I actually have a bit of a report, on, the topic I was following up on was guideline revision. I did publish, an email out to the National Association of Preservation Council, to, just put it out there for anyone who knew consultants, who had been through the process recently. I got 3 responses, and I didn't do any additional follow-up yet. The next step is to write an to write an RFP. I will do some more research to get additional candidates. So I also had an opportunity to talk to Lisa Craig and get her perspective. She responded to me and said, "I'd love to talk to you about it." And I just got some of her feedback, and she certainly agrees that having worked with these guidelines that we are working with now, she agrees they need a revision. So I've started to put together a RFP scope, and I'll just run a few ideas by you tonight, 1 or 2 briefly, and then I'll put the deadline on myself that later this month, I'll have more of a draft of an RFP, at least an outline. But in terms of scope and objectives for the guidelines, we want to focus on the guideline section. Right now, our document includes a lot of background and history and almost architectural education that really aren't necessarily part of the guidelines. And we don't need those rewritten. I think my opinion is they can be carved off, and it's an interesting document, but that's not really what we use. So it's really a separate document. It actually can confuse people a little bit. And so I thought I would limit basically it's the guidelines are set from page 33 to 55. So focus on that. Another concept is make explicit ties to the Secretary of Interior's guidelines. These things derive from those guidelines, so using that. Some things we specifically have talked about, and I would be interested in a list that we want to make sure we don't miss, like a checklist when we're done. But utilities, which especially antennas we talked about, window materials, and that has something to do with energy conservation, solar panels, or even windmills. Those are the kind of things we want to make sure we don't miss. The sign guidelines are kind of stuck in there in a kind of a weird extra document. Are they part of the document or not? There's also some code overlap with other parts of planning and zoning code that I think should be explicitly referenced to clarify which kind of is. A good example of that is our height and bulk concepts, which are pretty well handled, actually. They overlap with they're handled well. That's more of that, I think. For instance, view sheds or view cones are actually over in planning and zoning code, and they're kind of referenced tangentially in our guidelines. So we should make that explicit.
Well, and Tim, we also have we actually have the code, the height code in the guidelines.
We do.
Which is great.
It's cut and pasted, which is good, as long as the code doesn't change. It's always a little dangerous when you cut and paste stuff.
Really shouldn't be there.
It really should just refer. It's better to just refer to it than cut and paste, because they all get out of sync, guaranteed. But they are right now in sync. And finally, a definition section, just a list of defined terms, like object, or view shed or cone, view cone. These are things that can be in a definition section, which is kind of a normal thing to have in a document like this. So those are some of the things I just surfaced and thinking about it for an hour or so earlier today. But I'll put an outline together. I have experience writing RFPs, so I can do a structured RFP. And I do have at least 2 candidates a woman from Virginia, from the Commonwealth Preservation Group named Paige Pollard. That gentleman named Phil Thomas, and they contacted me and said they would be interested.
So Tim, I have a suggestion, and it's better guidelines for screening for rooftop accoutrements.
Good.
I think that's an area where, we've been, I can remember when we did Jimmy Johnson, and I made it a condition of approval of the special exception. This was years ago, that they had to screen all that new mechanical equipment on the roof of Jimmy John's, because when you come down off of the stairs of the parking garage, you have just a real, that's one of the first things you see. And then what got approved in terms of screening never seemed like it was adequate in
Okay.
terms of really screen, because they come in and they put so much additional equipment on rooftops.
That's a good one.
So,
Yeah, they
Well,
do.
and I agree with Jackie. Rooftops are really a new frontier, and we've got our first antenna coming to public hearing. For the next public hearing meeting.
who is that?
That is
Okay.
which carrier is it? It's on 80
Mhm.
compromise.
Talk about
The
that.
issue is, though, that there are, and I don't want to distract from what you have to say. The issue is that there are 4 more applicants following that one, and there's already a large set of antennas on 80 compromise, and suddenly it becomes, it's not something that can be reviewed administratively, because cumulatively there's going to be an effect. It's just whether we want to see it or not. And in terms of screening, none of the wireless communications providers feel that screening would adequately address what we're trying to do. And of course, what screening is just kind of flimsy fiberglass fins. And we all know that the maintenance, in a high wind area is not going to be 100%. So it's a new dilemma, a new point of interest.
I'm glad you brought it up, Jack. One of the most important ones. Okay. Yes, Leslie.
Do we have the ability to limit the number of antennas based upon the provider? Each provider would like so many and max out.
Well, it's interesting that you say that. Verizon has one on the back of their building on Northwest Street, which I consider to be a failure. I'm not sure how it ever got there. I don't think we approved it. And they're, of course, vying for other rooftops. It's a valuable business
Very, very valuable.
installation.
If they're not in compliance right now in the current location, I think we ought to note that.
Well, I was walking with people from Verizon, and I pointed to that antenna, and I said, "Well, that antenna is not a success. That one does not follow guidelines. It's a failure." And they said, they were at least honest. They said, "Oh, that's ours."
Do we know when it was erected?
I don't know, and that's the great mystery.
Yeah.
How long has it been there?
It didn't require a permit.
Right. It's just visible on West Street. I see it every day, and I think I cringe.
Yeah. Will, I think you had your hand up first, and then Bobby.
Yeah.
Will. Oh, Will has frozen. Is it me?
Organizations.
I'm
There.
sorry, Will, you had frozen a little bit. You might want to start over there.
Pardon?
You had frozen.
Start over.
Oh, John, have you ever consulted any of the national planning associations? And specifically on the question of what Congress did about, it may be 25 years ago now. They passed a revised Communications Act so that these kinds of antennas would essentially be unstoppable by anyone who objected to them.
Well, we were presented with that for. I'm going to get this wrong. I'm going to call it Cat 5, but it's not. It's not Cat 5. We were presented with the addition of antennas on top of telephone poles, and that was when
5G. You're
I was
referring to
working
5G.
5G, right? And I was working with Roberta, and of course we said no. But you're right. There is sort of almost eminent domain
And
ruling.
there's no sense in taking a lot of time and effort to try and carefully craft regulations that will suit our needs here in Annapolis if there's already a federal action that makes all of that pointless. That's what
Well,
I'm getting at.
Well, we still control the rooftops. We may not control the 5G installations.
Do you know that? Have you had a legal opinion citing court cases or even our own office of law? I'm just trying to prevent. I'm all for controlling them. They are ugly, and they need to be controlled, especially in the historic district. But the U.S. Congress took great pains almost 25 years ago to stop people like us and municipalities from having hardly any control over this issue. So why spend a lot of time until we get the best legal advice now as to what we can actually do?
I think that's a great point, and I will dive more deeply into it. But right now, without question, they are all coming through HPC.
We are able to compel.
Okay,
them
are
to
you,
do
are
so.
you,
And
but
that's-
Will, are you talking about the stuff that, that on this, that's in the public right of way for 5G?
I don't think he's talking about all of it.
I'm
Well,
talking
the
about
city already
everything.
passed legislation to, that deals with a lot of this stuff. They passed it several years ago. Sally worked on it.
Well,
And
then
there are
you,
guidelines that
John,
were
it sounds like
adopted.
Jackie is your first point of contact to find out what has happened,
Right.
what the city has done, and what legal vetting, legal review there was. Because that's one of the things that's a pet peeve of mine. That
Mhm.
pro-business Congress people got this legislation rammed through about 25 years ago to try and stop us from doing things like we're contemplating doing here, anywhere.
Well, I do think there is a difference between what is in the public right of way and what's on private property. But I will clarify
We'll
that.
clarify. Yeah.
And I will send out information prior to the meeting so that can be reviewed. I think that these are very important points.
Yeah.
And there are way more antennas that are unapproved around town than you would suspect.
And that's all the more reason to try and spend a little more effort finding out what the current legal status is on this issue, because then if they are being placed without review and in non-conformance with the legal codes for these kinds of communication devices, then we can have them all ripped down. He says. Yeah, God, who knows how much money the city would have to spend, but
Well,
at least we can stop more of them.
Well,
that's our goal.
And then there's one more portion of this which I think is compelling, and that is, how much do we actually need in order to operate our wireless communications devices?
Well-
I have no idea.
Kind of outside of our sandbox.
I mean,
Right, it is.
that's the fact that I was kind of alluding to, was that, we should be able to place like a number that any provider, the maximum number that they can have in a certain area. So, say like, within a 50-foot radius, 100-foot radius, half-mile radius, whatever, so that, we don't have everybody with, these things all over the rooftops.
Yeah. Interesting concept. Yeah, so there would have to be some formula just to follow up on what Leslie says. So Leslie, you're saying if we would need to come up with some math, some formula that could be cited if we were to do that. I mean,
Okay, well, there are already adopted small cell system
Yes,
guidelines
right.
that were adopted in 21 and that govern some of the stuff that you're talking about, and they're on the city website.
Yeah, they have to do with public. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bob,
And
you
they
had a-
actually do include a section where it says there are some additional guidelines, historic preservation, additional requirements.
Yep.
Um,
They put that in there. for
I
us.
would encourage you all to read all of this stuff. I think a lot of the ship has sailed on a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, that's what I'm afraid of.
Bobby, you had a point?
Well, I had two questions, one of which has been answered, which the first question was, what kind of antennas are these? And it sounds like they're 5G essentially, that that Verizon and Xfinity and everybody is looking to put up. And my second question was, are we going to treat them all the same? I'm sure there are other antennas, private and non 5G type of things coming up as well. And obviously those would be handled differently. But we had an application from, it was probably St. Anne's Church, where they put them in the tower, and we let them put them in, but we worked with them to put them behind some special, they took out the wood panels that were there and stored them and then put something up that would allow the signal. Just because we can't prevent them doesn't mean we can't work with the applicant to make them as, I wouldn't say historic, but make them as doable as possible and make them work, maybe not within guidelines, but the placement, any coverage or shielding. I mean, we do have some options, even if we don't have the ability to stop them.
Right. The effect on the streetscape. And by the way, St. Anne's is a success.
Yes.
And that is an illustration of the louvers there. The louvered panels really are a success, and those are the material that works in smaller areas, but not in large expanses. It's that fiberglass material. So yeah, but
and there are other buildings that also have those flat panel antennas on, and that a lot of the hotels have put those up. Not in the historic district necessarily.
They're on the waterfront on the Tecumseh.
Yeah, they were approved there, but they're also, I think they have also the Graduate has them, and there are some. I mean, sometimes you don't even really notice the flat panel ones because they just sort of become more integrated into to the building.
Yeah.
We try and encourage when went through site design review in other areas of the city to do the flat panels.
Right, and I think what Bob said, we have successes, and we just want to work with them. We want them to organize them. We don't want them to be willy-nilly.
Right.
If they're spaced, and obviously possibly even color is an issue with these devices right now. They're all pretty much stark white. So we have making them less visually intrusive. Is what we are looking to do in general. We're not looking to stop them per se, unless they're in. We want to have an influence on their design, and I'm glad to hear we were able to compel one of them at least to come to the meeting, because that sets a precedent for this discussion to take place.
Well, and I'm going to recommend that the others follow, and so that we look at all of this cumulatively. It's a new trend.
Okay, and so adding specifics that we can cite in our guidelines would be helpful. One other point on guidelines, I also need to do the homework to find out how to apply for the grant, and I didn't do that yet. So that's kind of a prerequisite. John, I don't know whether you have any city funds to do this kind of thing. It would be great if you do have some, but I imagine it would not cover the full cost of a consultant to prepare these, because it will involve public input and.
Let me say that the budgets are being considered now, and I haven't submitted mine, and I will talk to you after the meeting about what you think could be helpful.
Okay, let's do that.
And anyway.
All That's an update. So any more questions about the next step on the guidelines?
No.
If any other business, I will take a motion to adjourn if there is no other business.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, Kevin? Aye. Say.
Aye.
Very good, Kevin.
Aye.
Bill? All right. All in favor? Aye.
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 No, opposed, abstained. They're adjourned.